Hello and welcome to Last Man Standing. I'm Dan Hollifield, and if you missed Stupid O'Clock tonight, you missed a huge handful of not only fun, but well, it's beyond description. But that's the way that Stupid O'Clock usually rolls. You can't describe it; just have to experience it. Uh, Hello, Roxanne. Hello, Mike Jimmy. And we have Bill Sartain here with us. And in a few minutes, we might have someone else.
And I have to apologize right off the bat. I thought I had Carrie Bloodrose as a Facebook friend.
Oh,
And so when I went to go invite him to the secret humor group, it wasn't coming up. So I went into my page and looked, and I apparently had liked his liked page and not personal Facebook. I'm
yeah.
not a friend, so I will not be able to do that
Well,
because
I just did. So,
did you? Good. Okay.
yep. And Ryan, don't know. It's going to take me a minute to find you on my little thingy here because I have several Ryans as friends. Yes, there we go. There is Ryan Permison, and we will, whether or
I
not
just
you
sent
want
it
to
to
come
him.
in or not, but you are quite welcome. And here we go. Oh, Steve, hey, see you again tomorrow night too. Hopefully, if I get home from work in time and I don't have to miss too much of the green room, the infamous green room. Yes.
If I get home early, I will come into the green room for a little while, but Saturday morning again, I will be working with my little sister Jenny on her sale.
Good morning.
Hi, Mike Jimmy.
Yeah. Coffee time, huh?
Oh yeah, no, the cup is already halfway down. My cat decided to wake me up 5 minutes before my alarm.
Oh, I
And what
hate it
time
when
is
that
it there?
happens.
It is 5:04.
Ouch. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate it when my bladder wakes me up at like 3 minutes to six which is when my alarm clock goes off for when I go to work during the week.
Yeah. No, that. Trust me, that's what it comes exactly after she woke me up.
Yes. Yeah, the cat wakes you up and then you invent the catapult.
Yep.
Yeah. Um, Now, my apologies for the last couple of weeks. Not only did I have the convention and I had internet problems at the hotel for the convention, but I have been working overtime at the factory on night shift, and it's been years since I have been on shift.
They're trying to
So
kill you before you retire, aren't they?
it,
Oh my
it
god.
doesn't matter. They still got to give my wife the money. Yeah. She gets my pension. She gets my 401k. The company still
This
has to come off the hip with that paycheck.
this will pay for the casket.
No, it ought to pay for a Lamborghini.
Mm.
No, that's better.
Yeah,
But they're
actually,
so much more difficult to bury, though.
it depends on whether or not you've got a front end loader or an
Why?
excavator.
I heard of somebody using an old 57 Chevy as a septic tank in their backyard before, so I guess anything's possible.
Hey, I have heard of somebody using a mid '70s Corvette as a coffin.
Ooh,
Had to dig a big hole, but you know
speaking
they love their
speaking of that,
Corvette.
today is the anniversary of the very first Corvette that came out in 1953,
Ooh,
which it was actually experimental back
hmm
then. Chevy didn't really know what they were doing or if it would be applauded or poo-pooed or what. So they only put out, I think, 50 some cars, kind of like a Tucker
Mm-hmm.
Preston Tucker deal.
It's a limited edition, yeah.
Limited edition. All the Corvettes were white with red interiors and a black rag top.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you had found one of those recently, you would be in some good money. They didn't actually, I'm the engine in it wasn't the engine that you would know a Corvette.
It was a 327, I do believe.
Yeah, they didn't come out with the 8-cylinder Corvette engine until I think it was like 1955.
Okay.
So I think it was just like a 4-cylinder or something. They said it was not by any means a high performance car at the time.
No, but they did look like something you'd see on a road race in Europe. They did look like that era's Le Mans cars.
Yeah, Le Mans or like a Grand Am style race or what have you.
Yeah,
but
they did not have the manta ray shape that they have now, or had back in the 70s.
Right. And for not ever being a fan of GM products in general, even though I own a Pontiac currently.
You have my sympathies.
I was always a fan of the earlier Corvettes. And the Corvettes that they have out now, I'm sorry, they don't look like Corvettes.
Now, my first job while I was working my way through college was at a place. The owner not only owned the little factory that I was working in, but he also owned the local dirt track, racetrack, and he had 2 late 50s Corvettes in the factory under plastic sheeting. So all the workers could do what I did and go and look at the darn things and go, wow, that's history right there. And they were absolutely beautiful. He didn't keep them locked up. You could actually open the door and sit in the seat. You just couldn't start it up and drive it down to the dirt track and take it for a ride.
Makes sense.
He had a shotgun. I mean, seriously, who's going to try that? Roxanne. Okay. Good night, and thank you for saying hello, and miss you at work. You wouldn't like the place now. I mean, I know you didn't like it then, but you wouldn't like it now because it's not quite as fun. So
now, one thing I do not care for is the new Mustangs, which, if you're not familiar, it's called the Mustang Mach-E, which is an electric Mustang. I did pull up a photograph if I could get it out of and it does not look like. Now, of course, below the doors, they tried to duplicate the little C-cut thing in there, but
no, I'm sorry. Mustangs have not looked right since the mid 70s when they shrunk them down into little bitty matchbox cars instead of the full-size powerhouse Mustang.
Well, when they came out with the first, I guess, new old style Mustang, when everybody was kind of doing the old look again, and Dodge did it with the Challenger miraculously. With the Charger, not so much back then, but they have improved on it, even though it's still a 4-door. But I'm liking it better. But the original Mustang, which they tried to do a retro fastback design, I didn't think that was too awful bad, but it was still very bloated compared to, say, late 60s, early 70s fastback.
Yep. I think the mid 70s before they shrunk them down was probably and this is just a Mustang, not the Mach 1s, because those were really good. But just the regular Mustang.
Oh,
Um,
you're talking about the Mustang 2s that
no,
came out.
The Mustang 2s is where they screwed everything up. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
No, before that, they were, you know, uh, well, I mean, I'm not a Ford fan, but they were well engineered and well built and
Hmm.
nice cars. But once you hit the Mustang 2, it was like, why the hell is this horse on my Toyota? Um, now
And
I used to know folks that were really proud of their Mustang 2s when they were brand new,
hmm
and
I had a
about
70 Torino that had a 351 Cleveland in it that I
oh,
really liked, and an 80 Thunderbird that was really That was the first luxurious. Everything was electric in it, which of
I
course
had
eventually would go out after a while, but it was nice at the time. Those were two Fords that I really loved, but all the rest of them, I'm more of a Mopar man by choice.
well,
But my
uh,
favorite car was my 96 Toyota Camry because it was just the most reliable damn car I've ever had. Bought it
I
off of one owner, and it probably always will be.
I had a '79 Thunderbird when they were still big.
Hmm.
I mean, I have growing up on a farm, I have plowed fields smaller than that car. I
Yeah.
mean, I opened the trunk once, and I swear Jimmy Hoffa was in it. It's like
Well,
hello, 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 hello. There was an echo in the trunk.
that's where you kept the horse after you got done plowing the field.
No, no.
It was in the trunk of the T-Bird.
You used a Ford tractor for plowing the fields. Thank you. My dad was a staunch GM fan. Uh, he worked at General Motors. His first job was building, I think, 55 Bel Airs,
Oh well.
and he went to the GM Institute to learn how to be a machinist, and he was loyal to GM products all of his life. But he said, "Look, until GM builds a tractor, we gonna buy Ford tractors because those work. You have to you have to tinker with them every damn day before you start them up, but they work and they're damn near indestructible. They just hey, this was back in the '70s, so he was right. If White Freightliner had ever come out with a diesel turbine for the tractors that they built, nobody else would buy anything else. I mean, you're talking about extreme horsepower and extreme fuel economy for a tractor. So it might
I
be
still
25
have.
miles an hour, but you'd be able to you you would feel like you were in one of those rocket cars at 25 miles an hour with one of those. White did build tractors, and they were huge, and they were 4-wheel drive. They had a hinged chassis, so you could make really tight turns with the darn things. They were like the Landmaster from the a Damnation Alley movie, but it was a tractor.
Mm,
And um, I looked at the pictures, I looked at the blueprints, and I just loved that thing. But I was glad I had the Ford. Um, you're talking almost 30 miles an hour for one of the small ones going from one field to another, which is unheard of for a tractor. You're only supposed to be able to do about 12 miles an hour on a tractor. 30 is pushing it.
Yeah.
And it sounded so good going down the road. I swear. No, it was more like uh, imagine a tiger angry but purring. I hate you. Brrr.
I hate you, but keep petting.
Yes.
Now you're making me think of the old SO put a tiger in your tank things
I
that they
remember
did in
that.
the late 60s, early 70s.
I remember that when Exxon was actually three different companies that had not yet combined. SO, Enco, um, oh Lord, what was the third one?
Let's see, Enco, SO, ESCO,
ESCO.
ESCO. That's the main ones we had around here. Cherokee, we had SOs, and then we actually had an SO plant. Carl and Donna's already gone, so they could correct me if I'm wrong, but we had an SO plant in Danville.
Yep, and oh Lord, what was that song? SO, Enco, Sunoco. Oh, there was something about it was along the same lines as um Commando Cody and the Lost Planet Airmen doing "Smoke That Cigarette" or "Hot Rod Lincoln."
Yeah.
It was a song that sounded like that. So
Now I'm trying to think of who originally sang the smoke that cigarette. I know it was a cowboy star or country, whatever.
well, Commando Cody and the Lost Planet Airmen made the most popular version. I don't know who did it originally.
It was originally done in I want to say mid-late 40s.
Yeah, would have been. It would have been, yeah, because it had that feel. It had that retro feel to it, even with Commando Cody. And
now you're making me look it up.
Hey, I'm not Bill. I'm not going to take time out to look up stuff. I'm just going to keep right on talking. Trying to plow ahead here because ordinarily, since I've got
with your Fordson tractor,
no,
or your '79 Torino.
Oh no, I didn't have a Torino, but
or I mean T-Bird.
Oh yeah, the T-Bird. Yeah. I also had a '77 Cutlass Supreme.
Oh wow.
that bugger was that was built to race right there.
So
I had to be very careful not to exceed the speed limits on the highways with that thing. I had installed an external cassette player tied into the stereo system, the AM/FM that came with the car, and because I did not have the proper filter, the alternator would cause a whine to come through the speakers. So I had an audio version of cruise control. I could get it up to the speed I wanted and remember that note because yes, I was in a marching band. I remember notes. I don't have perfect pitch, but I have pretty damn good pitch, and I would keep that note constant. The alternator whine in the speaker feedback, and that sucker, I know for a fact it would do 130. Wow. But it only did it once because I'm chicken shit.
How fast can this thing go? I'll never do it again.
Yeah.
It was after midnight on the way back from Atlanta. On the way, I had seen Rocky Horror Picture Show. There were no passengers in the car. Like I said, it was after midnight. It was a 4-lane divided highway, and I wondered just how fast this thing would go. And I opened it up. And I chickened out before the motor did. It would go faster, but I'm not going to do that.
My mom has the same problem with with her current car. She went from a dinky toy to something that could actually pull something.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she had a Fiat 500 that was made for women. She does not drive like a woman.
Ah, good for her.
And she currently has a Daewoo, which is like a pretty shitty car from what I gather. But
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
it's a 2008 Daewoo. I don't know what specifics or whatever. We found it pretty cheaply, and the only thing that needed fixing was the tires. So that was a good deal.
It was a dependable car. It wasn't a sports car. It was a
Yeah.
dependable
Yeah.
car.
Yeah, like
Oh, when I
exactly.
got my 70 Torino, I asked the lady, she just lived across state line in Covington, and I said, "Can I take it to my brother to have him look at it? He's a mechanic." And she said, "Oh yeah, sure, go right ahead." I took it over to him, and he says, "What's under the hood?" I said, "Well, 351, of course." And he says, "Cleveland or Windsor?" And I said, "Cleveland." And he turned around and he shook his head, looked at my dad, and he says, "Oh my God, he's going to kill himself." Because that was my first muscle car that I ever owned, and I was probably 18, 19 years old. I have the results here, Dan. Smoke, Smoke, Smoke was originally sung by Tex Williams in 1947. It was also sung by Jimmy Dean in 1961.
Yes.
And your Commander Cody and his Lost Planet Airmen in 1973. It was also sung by Asleep at the Wheel in 1995, which I forgot, and I did have that on an album.
I think I've heard
Phil
that
Harris.
one time.
Yeah.
Phil Harris?
Phil Harris in 1969 of all.
Wow.
And Willie
Phil Harris
Nelson in
got around.
1995. Yeah, so
Now,
a lot of
I would believe it a Willie, but Phil Harris, that surprises me. He got around.
Yeah, you got to remember, I mean, he was, even though he was the leader of the band there on the Jack Benny show, he was all about the comedy, and that kind of falls right in the spot. Him and Alice Faye.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was nice. Now
that's nice. Thank you for looking that up.
Well, you're welcome. And earlier I was showing, oh God, this light. I get glare from everything. I took my Beatles single covers and records, my 45s, and I was looking for a frame for them. Now, if you folks have any picture sleeves that you want to put in a frame and you hang up on the wall, they are 7 by 7.
Yeah.
And unless you have a 7 by 7 custom made, or you go on Amazon and look for one, they're going to be about $30 on up. So I bought an 8 by 8 front loading frame, just like my album frames and that, and they do okay. I used a background, a black background for it to make up for the inch around there. And, like I say, I still got to get them up. They're probably going to go up over there with my Peter Tork and Mike Nesmith autographs that I have in the shadow box and that. But I've been very busy. But yeah, 8 by 8 frames, and I got those frames at Walmart for $2 and some change, so they're very reasonable.
The only 45 I have that I think deserves being framed and preserved. It's an adamant 45.
Ooh.
And it's just a plain paper sleeve. It's not a picture sleeve or anything. But the B side was supposed to be one of Adamant's well-known songs, and it turned out that it had been mispressed at the factory, and it was a theme from the Rockford Files with an adamant label on the 45. So the A side was adamant, the B side was Rockford Files.
Don't drink, don't smoke. What do? I watch the Rockford Files.
Yeah, really. So that was pretty cool. That is a collector's item right there. I mean,
Mhm.
I don't imagine that they got away with that for very long before somebody complained. Um,
Now, I remember when Mike Post uh, actually pressed a 45 of the Rockford Files theme, because back in the mid 70s, that was real popular with,
mhm.
Pratt and McLean did the Happy Days theme, and Cindy Greco did Laverne and Shirley, and John Sebastian of the Lovin' Spoonful did Welcome Back Cotter, which was just titled Welcome
Yeah,
Back,
yeah.
and so on and so forth. And I
Do
remember
do you
his coming out.
remember do you remember the radio airplay version of Tubular Bills? Because it came
It
out
was
on a
cut.
single. It
Oh,
yeah,
right.
because Tubular Bills is the entire album side A and side B.
Right.
But they did a radio play version which was just a 45 of just
Yeah.
the
Oh,
main 3, maybe 4 variations on a theme. So, now I I don't know if I've got the 45. I want
Mm.
to say I do, but I can't swear to it.
I'm going to
I
have
don't
to
have
look
that
through those
many.
45s that I got, because I know, well, like, and I got it again with not this last batch of 45s I got last week, but the ones that I got from a couple weeks ago, was Don McLean's American Pie, which
Mhm.
actually they cut that in half,
Yes, they
and
did.
you
yeah.
Yes, they did. I
American
think
Pie
I
part
think
one
I
on
do
one
have that.
side and part two on the other.
Mhm. Where it was supposed to be the album cut was just one continuous piece that's
And I
7
think,
minutes long or thereabouts.
right,
Mm.
I think part one ended right prior to the verse of Helter Skelter in a Summer Swell,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and that's where it picked up on side two.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey
Um,
guys, I gotta head out because, well, I'm in my work shirt already, so that should say enough because
I
I don't
see
wear red
that.
gotta
normally.
go to work. Hey,
Yeah, I
gotta
gotta
earn
start
that
prepping.
money.
I gotta make lunch, get freshened up and start heading out. So take it easy, and hopefully I'll catch you Saturday. Oh,
Hey,
Sunday
let
for
me know
me,
if you
but
need any more music for Cora.
for now I need my voice actors to actually start working on something.
That I can't help you with. I've got a nice voice,
No,
but I'm not anywhere near an actor quality. So
I don't think they are either, but it's for fun, so it's fine. But
hey,
yeah, like we just gotta schedule a time, and they will come around. But
Huh?
yeah, for now, time to get to work. So take it
have a
easy,
good
guys.
day.
Sleep well.
Take care. Vaya con
Take
Dios.
care, guys.
And I saw Stephanie
Yeah, she's
put
gonna
in a
eat
message.
something. She's
Yeah,
gonna eat something and then she'll pop in.
right.
Yeah.
And you got to get nourishment.
Oh
I got
Lord, yeah.
I made. Have you ever heard of oatmeal scotchies? They're
Yes, I have.
oatmeal cookies with the Toll House butterscotch morsels, and I had not
Hmm.
made them for a long time, and I made them a couple weeks ago,
There was
and I
something. There was something. It's in the same vein, but it sounded weird. And then uh, I believe it was my second wife that made them. I don't believe it was my first wife. I believe it was
mhm.
my second wife, but it was um, a dried noodle that you would think of as being part of a Chinese dinner,
Mhm.
and peanut butter and something else,
Huh.
and you basically just blend it together, and the noodles were crunchy because they'd never been boiled,
Mhm.
and the peanut butter and whatever else it was might have been chocolate chips, it might have been um, I don't know, something. It's been a long, long time. I mean, she's been gone for a long, long time, and I was just looking at it. You basically mix all this stuff together and you put it on wax paper, and then you put it in the fridge rather than bake it.
Oh, okay.
So you want it to get cold and cookie consistency,
Hmm.
and it was absolutely amazing. Whatever
Sounds
those
yummy.
whatever those noodles were, I mean, it's
Hmm.
not a standard noodle. It was some specialty thing,
Right.
and it went perfectly well with the peanut
May-
butter, especially after it was chilled.
Yeah, maybe
And
fuselli or something. Or
I don't have the faintest idea.
well, it sounded like you were kind of going down the road of a recipe for almost like well, they call them no bake cookies, but
Yeah.
my grandmother used to call them top of the stove cookies that you
Well,
did with
yeah, these
cocoa and peanut
yeah
butter.
these were basically you spoon it onto the wax paper, you put it in the
Mhm.
fridge, and you let it get cold, and you eat it while it's cold. If it gets warm, you're going to get peanut butter all over your fingers,
Mhm.
and they were quite nice. They were quite good. And if you had seen the preparations, you go, not sure that's gonna be good because that's supposed to have vegetables and stuff with them noodles. But
Mhm.
here's Stephanie. So yay! But they made quite nice little cookies
We're
as long as you were able to eat them before they got warm. You
we're
had to keep
talking
them in the
about
fridge.
food, Stephanie. So you may want to eat again by the time we're done.
Oh Lord. Um,
Yeah, Grandma Ruthie, my father's mother, um, she always collected all of our margarine containers and Cool Whip containers and that all year long. She'd say,
mhm,
wash them out and save them for me, and then bring them over next time you come over.
mhm,
And what inevitably she would do is instead of, well, when me and my brother were kids, she would buy us toys or what have you. But as we got older, she made, trying to think of how many different kinds of fudge. She made peanut butter fudge, chocolate fudge with walnuts,
mm,
divinity, and then she made this kind of brown sugar fudge called 3 pound loaf that had some sort of nuts in it too, which was absolutely to die for, but it was super, super rich and you could only eat just a little bit at a time. Then she made the homemade Chex Mix, which was
yeah.
back in the days when you
before
got
you
it,
could buy it.
right before you could buy it, and you baked it on a cookie sheet in the oven with Worcestershire sauce and all that stuff.
Mhm.
And then she made this, it was called bullet bread, and you basically saved up all your tin cans from your Del Monte or
Mhm.
Green Giant niblets cans or whatever. Of course, you take the paper off and you put the bread dough inside the tin cans, set them up on end on a cookie sheet, and put them in the oven so that when it bakes, it thoroughly bakes all around
Mhm.
and then rises up and of course looks like a bullet. So that
Yeah. Yeah.
hence the reason why it's called bullet bread, but it was some sort of brown bread. I can't remember what all the ingredients were. And so come time for Christmas, and she would hand you 3 or 4 wrapped packages with your names on them that weighed a ton. You knew you were getting some good stuff,
Mhm.
and you would want to try to make that last as long as you could, because she only made it for Christmas time. No other time of the year. And I, having made some of that stuff now and doing some baking that she used to do a lot, I totally understand the toil that she went through, the just
Oh yeah.
the
Yeah.
stress and everything else, and the backaches and all that, and I can appreciate it on a whole new. Not that I didn't appreciate it then, but as a kid, you can
Yeah.
do
Now
so
that you know
much.
how much work was involved, you can
Oh
appreciate it
yeah,
on a whole new level. Yeah.
absolutely.
One of the things that my mom was justifiably proud was her mother taught her uh, how to make various kinds of candy. Because I mean, you talking about you grew up during the Great Depression. Your father was a Kentucky coal miner. You got no money. You make things out of what you can get. And her divinity, my God, if a company ever got hold of Mom's recipe, they'd be billionaires overnight. I mean, seriously, this was, and then the fudge that she would make, and it would be one of those things she tested out once she got the mix heated up and everything, and put a little drop in a coffee cup full of water so that it would solidify to make sure that she got the sugar balance just perfect. And then she go, "Hey, try this." And I go, "Yes, ma'am." Absolutely.
Hmm.
When I was younger, I helped my mom make the Christmas goodies. We're talking divinity, fruitcake. My mom had a fruitcake that was to die for. People that hate fruitcake would eat my mother's fruitcake.
Yeah, I'm that
Um,
way. I'm that way with Lindsay's. She calls it her Christmas cake, but it's basically fruitcake.
mhm.
But now
Fun,
she's cheating. It's got either rum or well, this year she put Jameson's in it. And,
mhm.
Oh,
Brandy, something like that. Yeah, and
mhm.
fudge. Several different flavors of fudge. Several different flavors of boiled cookies. Um,
wait a minute. What's a boiled cookie?
it's a no bake cookie. It's
Oh, okay.
somewhere between candy and a cookie. It's made with oatmeal.
It's
You
a
put rolled
southern
oats in
thing.
it, huh?
It's a
What, Dan?
southern thing.
It's a southern thing. Dan knows what I'm talking about.
Yes,
Dan,
I
can you
do.
describe it any better?
No, I can't. You do it perfectly.
So,
So it
so
is
you,
a no bake. You,
yeah,
It's
and then you drop it out on wax paper,
mhm,
in blops, and it kind of it's just liquidy enough to kind of spread out a little bit.
mhm,
mhm.
yeah.
And then you let it harden, and
Mhm.
it is, oh
It,
my gosh, that was my
then you
favorite of all time.
you fight the
I
rest of
just
your
never,
family for every single one you get.
I just never heard it called a boiled cookie before. And us being North Carolina, like I said a little bit ago, my grandmother always called it top of the stove cookies. And then
Yeah.
it took a while. I'm like, what are these no bakes that they're talking about? And you find out it is the same thing,
It's
that it has
it's
the
Hmm.
cocoa
what
and
your
peanut
grandma
butter in it.
made.
Yep.
Yes, indeed.
Hmm. Yep.
And mama would make brown sugar and cocoa and peanut butter flavors of those. And then
Hmm.
she would make similar flavors of the fudge, because my
Hmm.
daddy preferred the fudge, and my sister and I preferred the boiled cookies.
Hmm.
And then there was coconut cake and jam
Ooh.
cake and spice cake and pecan pie.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We get done with this show tonight, I won't be able to fit in my jeans anymore, and that's even just with not eating a thing.
You won't even be able to fit in mine.
I'll be like this. Well,
Well,
I'll
I
tell you
am,
one
but
thing. My grandmother made these cookies, and I bet you've never heard of them, because every time I've mentioned this to somebody, and they're legitimate. I have it's a 1978 Ogden United Methodist cookbook from Ogden, Illinois, that uh, Sarah Heiser to this day still plays the organ every Sunday at that church, and they're called potato chip cookies. And these things,
mhm,
you have heard
Mhm.
of it?
Yes,
mhm.
yes, yes.
Okay.
Now,
Uh,
now, my family called them potato pancakes, but they were cookies.
these were cookies. You took a pound of butter and a pound of margarine with your flour,
Damn, I just
sugar,
gained 5 pounds listening to you.
salt. Oh yeah, yeah. It's incredible. And if you try to substitute like the margarine for butter, saying, well, it's better if it's got all butter. No, it's not. It requires both, and there's a reason why it requires both.
Mhm.
And then, of course, you use the Ruffles.
It's chemistry. That's what it is. It's
Yeah,
chemistry.
well, exactly. Yeah, the Ruffles potato chips, and you crush. They always say a crushed or 1 cup of crushed Ruffles, but my grandmother knew that we liked them extra crunchy, so she doubled that part of it. And then,
Mhm.
of course, the grease from the potato chips helped out
Yeah.
on the baking end of it as well.
Mhm.
And once again, very, very good, but oh my God, are they so rich? If you can eat more than 2 or 3 cookies, and that, I would say you probably better go to the hospital afterwards and see
And,
if your heart's going to stop.
and Toll House cookies and sugar cookies decorated with the colored
Oh.
sugars
Oh
on
yes,
Mhm.
top.
yes,
Yep.
yes.
And what am I forgetting? There was another kind of cookie in there.
You did mention shortbread already,
No, I haven't
right?
mentioned shortbread. Actually, I didn't grow up eating shortbread. My family didn't make shortbread.
Oh,
I learned how to make shortbread. I can make shortbread.
If I weren't
Um,
married,
hmm?
if I weren't married,
um,
Mama's a
geez,
little
yeah,
baby. Dan loves shortbread, shortbread.
hey, um, look, the way to a man's heart is through his stomach, unless you've got a knife, and then it's the third and fourth rib, isn't it?
Hmm.
but yeah, we used to, and she brought my sister and me into the kitchen to help, and so I learned how to. Some of it I can make. Some of it my sister can make. Oh,
Mm.
there was the pound cake, and
Yeah, a pound of everything.
yeah, and
So I,
my sister got good at the pound cake and the pecan pie, and I can make the cookies.
hmm.
So,
Hmm.
Okay, your pecan pie, did it have dark chocolate in the bottom of it?
no, I have had
It
it that way, but
have
that's
you?
not the family recipe.
Right.
Mm.
Okay. I have never until when I was still a Civil War reenactor back in the 90s, we used to have a Christmas party every year for all the reenactors and their family members. And one of the family's wives, who could cook like nobody else, brought a pecan pie. And I'm like, oh, this is great. And I got a piece of it and took a bite and realized that there was just a very thin layer of dark chocolate in the bottom of it. And I thought, oh no, I'll never eat this the same way again. It's like, and I've eaten pecan pie without it afterwards and just think, man, something's missing, which I knew what
Pepperidge,
it was.
Pepperidge Farm remembers, yes.
Mm.
Uh,
So
oh
last year
Lord.
for Christmas, I made tons of Christmas cookies, like what you said with the different colored sugar and that.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
for my niece, I made this huge. Now this takes up a whole cookie sheet. Uh, a cookie with made out of her name, her name, and I had to do some heavy figuring to make sure that this would come out good and not burn or not be raw.
Yeah, really.
but
You
it
have to
did came out.
calculate how it's going to.
Uh huh.
Yep. You
And
got to
And
and
know
I'm
the
sorry,
oven temperature and the everything. Yeah.
the best cookies are fresh out of the oven and still gooey.
Yes.
mhm.
So they're just
You could pretty much make a taco out of them, but you
uh
don't want
huh,
to put anything in it but chocolate.
right.
So some Hershey bars disappeared back in the day, being folded into some of these cookies. Oh Lord.
Chocolate
Now,
tacos.
they're oh, I remember when my paternal grandmother and her sister got together to make chow chow. And we're talking a 5-gallon ceramic crock
Hmm.
and chopped cabbage and everything else that goes into it. And yes, I can do it. I don't have the ceramic crock, but it's like I've read recipes, and the way it went is kind of like Korean kimchi, only not hot, less peppery. And good Lord, you take a couple of spoonfuls of that and you put it in a bowl of pinto beans and throw some butter in there and let it melt. Get you a slab of cornbread, and you got a meal fit for a king.
Hmm.
Especially if the cornbread is crackling cornbread.
Ooh, I'm not fond of crackling cornbread. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
really? Oh, man. That was like my all time. My grandmother used to make that expressly for me.
I have had it, and it was not one of my favorites. I just like the plain ordinary, no sugar
Yeah.
cornbread. Yeah.
Cornbread
Um,
does not supposed to have sugar in it. That's cake.
no, no. Yes, that is a birthday cake. That is not cornbread.
Hmm.
Yep.
It's good, but it's not cornbread.
Right. And it doesn't go good with buttermilk. Let me tell you that right now. If you put sugar in your cornbread, it's not going to go good with buttermilk. And I am one of the last connoisseurs of cornbread and buttermilk as a meal.
Did you
When I
probably
said,
put into the buttermilk like my mom did?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Take a water tumbler, crumble up the cornbread, especially if it was like 2 days old.
Mm-hmm.
Get rid of the 2 day old cornbread because you know there's going to be some more real soon. You got to
hmm.
clean out the fridge first, and then just pour the buttermilk on it, and kind of loosen it up a little with a long handled teaspoon, and then you just pretty much imitate Tasmanian devil and
Hmm.
you know,
Now,
stand stand far back.
I have to admit I go against the Southern grain in that I never was into buttermilk. Just really didn't like it. But I
It,
would do the same thing with sweet milk.
I have tried that and I was not as fond of it. Um, it was okay, but
I read the comments, guys.
I saw that.
Ace.
Ace, we're gonna.
Ace,
We're,
we are dangerous people. There's a reason why the FBI has all of us on a watch list, and it's probably because they want cooking recipes.
don't don't worry, Ace. Next year or next week, we're gonna have the host of the Late Late Show on doing a Weight Watchers commercial during
Hey,
the show ahead of time.
now, last year, John and I had the chili cook-off at Hallowcon. Imagine
That's right.
if we had cornbread and buttermilk.
Oh man.
Oh
Now, you
God!
talking
I used
about
to
the
be
cornbread, have you ever heard of swoosh? It was something that was created during the Civil War by the soldiers, both North and South.
Hmm.
What they would do is they would take cornmeal, water, or cornmeal and a little bit of flour and mix it with water till it comes out into like a paste type dough. You stuck it on the end of your bayonet on the rifle and held it
Hmm.
over the fire. And so we wanted to experiment around with it before going to a reenactment. We were going down to, I believe it was a reenactment in Resaca, Georgia, that upcoming weekend. So me and my friend who passed away 1st of May, we were at his house, and he said, let's just try to make this in the kitchen. We're not going to worry about the bayonet and the over the fire. We'll deal with that during the reenactment, and then that'll be a learning
Hmm.
experience there. But let's just try to make it here. And I said, well, then what are you going to do? He said, well, let's try it in a skillet. And basically, we ended up not coming out with anything near that was like swoosh, but I will say it was like a soft Frito, or like a Frito corn chip pancake.
Yep.
And it actually was very, I mean, we ended up cutting them up, putting them on a plate, and pouring some syrup on it, and it was wonderful to eat. And but then when we did get to the reenactment in Resaca, we did try it to do it on the and it takes a little bit of technique to get it on the bayonet. I know
my fall off in the fire.
Well, that's what happened to mine on the first one. I got it a little bit too liquidy, and then the other part of the trick is you let it sit for a couple minutes, and it does actually sit up just a little bit. And instead of poking it on the end of your bayonet, you actually pull it out and wrap it like you're wrapping a scarf around your neck.
Because if you're poking it, then you're also cutting the dough, and that is going to lead to cutting through and falling off.
That would reduce the molecular strength, the bonds that would be holding it together because you sliced it with the knife. It sounds something like a sopapilla. Is that the right way? My Spanish is horrible.
Sopapilla, yeah. Or beignet, which is almost the same thing.
Yeah, but French.
But those are fried. So, but yeah, it sounds good. It sounds.
It's basically a taco shell with honey, or something like that. Soft taco shell. Oh Lord, food. Why do I do this to myself?
You were talking about making chow chow. I remember very vividly one of my great aunts. She and my great uncle had this huge cabbage patch out behind their house. When the cabbages got pickable, they would have this great big sauerkraut making party at their house.
Yep.
And I never saw so many jars of sauerkraut in all my life, but it was good sauerkraut.
Oh yeah, and it disappeared quickly. Yeah, because homemade is a whole lot better than store-bought.
Oh yeah.
The trick is basically let it age instead of breaking into it right away.
Yeah. And she had a special pestle that she would use in the mason jars and pack it really, really tight before pouring in the juice. But yeah, my grandmother made the best pickles, all different kinds of pickles, sweet pickles, dill pickles, mustard pickles, you name it, she made pickles, and they were good.
There was one year when we had a garden out back of Granny Hollifield's house, and Mama and I were told to plant beets from seed, and we used an entire bag in one row, and it should have been about 5 rows, but Mama and I did not have a firm grasp of the theory at that time. We had pickled beets for years because all of them came up. We didn't thin it out. It was like a solid row of beets, and it's like, whoa! And they were good size. They were crowded together, but every single one of them came out bigger than a silver dollar. And The ladies in the family were kind of fussing because they had so many beets to pickle. And believe me, that was when you saw one of those jars being opened and you saw the date on it, you knew it was going to be a good year.
Here's
Ace.
what sluice looks like
Oh, okay.
on that, and it basically is like a cornmeal pancake, and that, but and the way they're showing it on here, flattened out and fried, but it would be more of a oblong looking thing if you had it on your bayonet.
Yep.
Cobbler and homemade ice cream. Oh, Lord have
Oh.
mercy.
Mhm.
The summer evenings that conjures up.
Oh yes.
Oh my gracious.
And haven't this was before the electric ice cream churns where you had to all the
Hand
kids
crank
had
it.
to take turns to hand crank that thing. And the harder it got to crank, the better you knew the ice cream was going to be.
Because it was setting up hard.
Uh-huh.
Now,
And
we didn't. They didn't allow the kids to crank it when I was growing up because it 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 got hard enough to where the men had to crank it, or it wouldn't have got cranked. So yeah, I didn't have to crank it, but I do know that my dad was very pleased upon acquiring the first electric ice cream maker because that meant he didn't have to crank anymore.
I've got to tell you, when you have picked fresh peaches off a tree
Hmm.
and skinned them and pitted them and sliced them up and got the ice cream churn or well whatever they call it ice cream maker out and you
Yeah.
had everything in there and you had homegrown peaches and whatnot. Hey, it worked with blackberries, it worked with cherries, it worked with whatever. And you're sitting there and you're turning the crank and you can smell the fruit and you can
Hmm.
smell the vanilla. There is no finer torture
Yeah.
because you got to keep going because if you stop, it's not going to be as good.
Yeah.
My
Mom,
grandmother that lived in Fithian, Illinois, every year for 4th of July, they had the Fithian Women's Club had a ice cream social on 4th of July. And and it was just vanilla ice cream, but it was homemade. And when you had it, it would taste like vanilla bean ice cream that you'd get at the Cracker Barrel or something, but it had just this hint of coconut flavor to it, just barely taste. And I would say if there's somebody that doesn't like coconut, don't worry about it because this just whatever it was, it might have been part of the rock salt or something getting into the mixture, which my grandma always said made it better
Mhm.
if you ended up eating a little bit of the salt. But
Hey,
I have memories of sitting on the front porch with tow sacks full of corn, shucking
oh,
in silken corn,
mm,
grocery bags full of green beans and crowder peas,
oh God,
stringing and snapping the green beans and shelling the peas.
Lord save me from shelling peas.
Oh,
mm.
I loved to shell peas.
Oh,
I was good at shelling peas.
it was a good thing we had a radio because it was boring as all get out without something going on in the background.
We were constantly yammering and talking about stuff. So
Well, when we were with our grandparents, yeah, but here with it was just mom and dad and me and Sharon and Tim.
Ace,
Um,
have you taken a Tums yet?
I've got to tell you that at one time in my life, everybody in the family thought that I was going to be the next Rodney Dangerfield or whatever stand-up comedian. Because when you get my brother and my sister and I together, there is a level of comedy that transcends human endurance that we come out with. You, you think I'm a smartass in the green room? You should hear some of the G-rated stuff that I practiced on back in the day with my brother and my sister. Because I mean, we would have. You remember the childhood code that you used to have, where only your siblings understood what you were talking about, and you only needed one or two words to get everybody in the family just rolling on the floor laughing. I mean, there were things that happened as you were growing up, and you had these keywords that you could say to one another, and that's all you needed was one or two words, and it was just, oh, I remember that. I remember that. Oh God, I wish I
And
didn't remember that.
and my parents were as big a mischief makers as anybody.
Oh,
I can remember my sister and me actually going under the table when my mom and dad got into a food fight at the dinner table. I can remember being in the kitchen when, okay, this was back in the day before dishwashers, and you washed dishes up in the sink and you put them up on a rack to dry.
yeah.
I
And
still
so
do.
we had a particularly big pile of dishes and pots and pans and whatnot to wash up that night. And mom had just finished very carefully stacking them up on the drainer to drain and dry. And all at once, half of them just slid right back down in the sink into the dirty water. And she did one of these, and she choked back whatever she was going to say. And
I'll
she
be a
had the
dirty
dish rag.
word. Yeah.
She had the dish rag in her hand, and she turned and she threw the dish rag. Now this is a lady that played softball in a league, summer league. Okay, she knew how to throw stuff. Over in the kitchen on the counter, in the corner of the kitchen on the counter, was a great big bowl of peas that was drying for next year's planting.
Hmm.
That dish rag hit that bowl of peas.
Oh my. No. Tell me it didn't.
Every
God. Thank God they were for planting.
yeah,
Ah,
we
get
died.
it. Get out the broom in the dustpan.
Mhm.
Oh Lord.
She looked kind of sheepish after that, but she looked like she felt better too.
Well, yeah, blowing off steam. That's
Get
good
it
for
out of your
anybody.
system.
You really.
So, but yeah,
Don't 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 let the sun set on your anger. Yeah.
no. And we all pitched in and helped clean everything up. Me, Daddy, my sister, we all pitched
Hmm.
in. So,
My grandmother, who never cussed hardly at all, never
In
did
your
for
presence.
longest time. And this is the little old Southern grandmother. She always had, from as young as I can remember, always had problems with people's names. She'd be looking at you. She'd say, Joe, John, Junior,
Call the
Dan.
roll.
Yeah. And
Hmm.
eventually she might get your name in there. But,
And
and then,
God help you if she used your middle name too, because you knew you were in for it then.
yeah, that's,
You were
well,
in trouble if you heard your middle name.
being that I always went by my middle name because my
Well, I
name
mean,
and my father's name was both John. Um, if my full name was used, I knew I was in trouble. But with her, we were on vacation. We went to Smoky Mountains, I think, to Gatlinburg or somewhere, I forget.
mhm.
And we were going through, oh no, I'm sorry, it was up in Wisconsin. We were going through a cheese factory, and they were trying to, all the different ones. We were on a tour, and these people were taking us different things and saying, this is where such and such cheese is made, and this is how we age it, and this is how we do this and do that. And then they'd have this little table that you go over and sample all the cheeses. Well, she turned around and everybody's sampling the cheese, and they're kind of like, okay, well, okay. And she tasted it, and in the middle of 30, 40 people that was part of our tour group, she goes, tastes like soap suds. Out loud, everybody started laughing. And then my dad was just cackling, and she started in to say something to him. And of course, she ran through half of our names before she got to my dad's name and that. And finally, she just says, "Oh, shit," like that. And we're like, "Grandma Ruthie." Yeah, it was the first time I ever heard her cuss. And I could count on one hand how many times I heard her since that time. But she was that boiling point, like Stephanie's mom throwing arming the dish towel over to the peas.
She didn't side arm it. She spun it. She threw it.
Through it, yeah.
That's one thing about growing up during the 20s and 30s in a large family. By the time your mother got down to your name calling the roll, she might not be as mad anymore unless she's upset she didn't remember your name first.
And my grandmother was one of 10 siblings, and she only had about 3 others older than her at the time, and she was a Depression era child, and back down south. But they were like the Waltons. I mean, they had so many kids, brothers and sisters. I never had any real aunts and uncles because my mom and dad were both only children. But and I only had one grandfather because the same grandmother that I'm talking about, her husband, who was a farmer by trade, but he also operated he delivered water during off season, but he also delivered moonshine. And if that wouldn't have been the thing that got him in trouble with my grandmother,
you just got Joe Dog to watch the show.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm going to have to pull out a picture of the grandfather I never knew. Well, he was not so nicely asked to leave when my father was 4 years old. And so I have very few pictures of all 3 of them, and I've never seen him. But he was John Henry Sarton. And he evidently was something what sealed the deal on the divorce, which of course back then divorce was really taboo. Yeah, you had to, but my grandmother found out that he had a girlfriend on the route that he delivered water, and she just a staunch Methodist, old country woman.
Back then, till death do us part meant you screw around, I'm gonna kill you.
Yep. And at one time in the late 60s, somewhere around there, apparently my grandfather found out that his son had 2 boys, myself and my younger brother Val, and he wanted to see us. He wanted to see his grandsons, but he knew better than to try to get a hold of my grandmother to ask permission. So he got a hold of one of her sisters and asked her, which she in turn said, I'll ask her. And she went up to her, and my grandmother said, no, end of story. And my Aunt Marthy, which great aunt, once again, mother and father are only children, so I just had great aunts and uncles. But she knew that no more was to be said, and she said, I will relay the message. And then that was the end of that. He did not attempt to try to see us against her will, because I think he knew that lightning would strike him if he did.
Hmm. Now, you said your brother's name was Val. Is it short for
Val.
Valentine?
Well, my other grandfather, my mom's father, his name was Valentine. So my brother's name was after him, and then his middle name was after my grandfather's brother.
Mhm.
But they did
William.
not want
Yeah.
to name my brother Valentine, so it was just always Val. And which I think he was glad of. And then also too, being the 60s and growing up in the 60s and 70s, I think my mother and father had a little bit of foresight in thinking that if you were named Valentine, you may be going through some teasing when you were a kid, which I'm sure would have happened.
Well, the reason I asked was
Mhm.
in 1700, when my direct paternal ancestors were evicted from England
Hmm.
and sent across to New York. It was William, Valentine, and John. And Valentine is not that common
No.
a first name. So I'm wondering, just idly, if
Hmm.
my family and your family might be somewhat related, since eventually, I think it was Valentine, could have been John, wound up in North Carolina
Hmm.
after breaking his indenture in New York City. He was under contract not to get married,
Hmm.
and he and one of the housemaids um, pretty much had to get married for the obvious reason. Well, hey, now this is one thing I've got to say about my dad's side of the family. Um, Pretty girl is really hard to resist. We it's kind of one of those things where uh, you either do your best to be honorable and true, or you are an absolute rake.
Hmm. Well,
And I got a feeling one of the reasons we got tossed out of England was somebody's wife was involved, and another reason was probably somebody's cattle were involved. But um, the things things did not tend to stay put, shall we say, and that was that was one of the charges, that we moved around too much. And I go, well, if there's a jealous husband, it pays to relocate.
mhm. I know that from some genealogy that was done about 40 years ago that we did have relations in Scotland that could have migrated to England. We had relations in the Ukraine.
Mhm.
Their last names were Jarema, and then some of them went to Poland. Of course, the obvious ones that you know about that I speak of on here in the States, and there's um, on the Dawes registry um, a John William Sarton and I'm sorry, Lucinda was his wife, and I'm trying to think of the son's name, and they're all three
Mhm.
on the registry being full blood. And originally from North Carolina, was put on the forced march and ended up in Oklahoma and Tahlequah. I've always had a problem pronouncing that, but anyway.
Hey, it is a
So
foreign language. Well, not to you, but
Oh, well, I'm trying to. Well, it is to me, and I am trying to learn it. And it is. I've heard some say that it is the most difficult language to learn. But
Talagi?
oh,
Yeah.
Talagi?
have you
Talagi,
tried
thank you.
Welsh?
Well, no, but I'm a big fan of Tom Jones, though.
Hey,
Oh, see, oh,
for,
boy,
47 consonants and a vowel, usually at the
Mhm.
end, and that's the word for bread, uh, or rain,
uh,
or something. I don't know.
I used to be not fluent in Cherokee, but I used to have a fair sized vocabulary.
Mm.
Mm.
Blonde hair notwithstanding, we think we've got some in our family.
We were always told that we had, but then we've taken the DNA tests, and no one
That
so
just
far has no one so far has had any. Now, my
that
mother
just
has not
means
taken any.
according to everything that I have read and been told by people who know about genetic expression, unless it specifically expresses in you, it's not necessarily going to show up in a DNA test.
Mm.
Mhm.
So if you turn out with blonde hair, blue eyes, pale skin, it's not necessarily going to show up. But on the other hand, I've got other markers like the backs of my teeth are concave,
Mm.
and that is a Cherokee. Well, that's a Native American um, trait, and some other things like the diabetes that runs in the on that side of the family, and things like that. Um, when I went to the Cherokee National Holiday in Oklahoma, um, one of the women elders there. I was kind of hurt because I'd heard some comments about there goes another blonde wannabe, that kind of a thing. And I had been, my mom and I had been digging into it, and so we weren't. We thought there was cause, and I was talking to one of my friends that I went with, and this lady elder overheard me, and she said, "Come here." So I came over to her. She said, "Open your mouth." So I opened my mouth. She stuck her finger in her mouth and hooked it behind my front teeth. And she felt around and she says, "This one's native. This one's got native in her." And after that, I didn't hear any more cracks about wannabes.
Mm.
So I
Yeah,
don't know who she was.
when Grandma says this is right, nobody argues if they want to live long and peaceful.
Yeah.
Um,
And where it gets more interesting is that a couple of the state tribes here in Alabama got in a got their panties in a wad about something. I never did know what it was. I wasn't part of it. I didn't have anything to do with it. I never really understood what it was about. But I found out after the fact that as a result of that trip to Oklahoma, where I actually I'd been working with one of the local tribes, not one of them involved in the dispute, um, with their uh, law enforcement department. And so when we went there, we took our uniforms and our badges and we helped provide security for the event. And so somebody in one of the state tribes thought they were going to get one up on the other tribe. And so they contacted the Cherokee Nation in Oklahoma and asked them to send somebody to testify about they had actual legitimate Cherokee in this state tribe. So the Cherokee Nation sent a representative to the state court, and this representative said, "We know of 4 people from the state of Alabama that are legitimate Cherokee. And they named us the four of us that had gone and helped provide security for the national holiday. And they said, we don't know anybody else that's Cherokee in the state. So
Now, my brother has gone further into the genealogy than I will ever understand. But apparently, we have ancestors from Turkey all the way around the Mediterranean, up into Ireland and Scotland, and up into well, Netherlands, Sweden, Norway, things like that. And one of the really weird coincidences that came out was there was quite a bit of Serbo-Croatian in there. And if you look at a photograph of my little brother and you look at a photograph of Nikola Tesla, they could pass for twins.
I believe the expression is Drageborg.
I actually showed Mom a picture of Tesla at age 30, and when my brother was age 30, and she goes, "Why is your brother dressed up in those old clothes?" Now, if his own mother says, "You look like this guy,"
Yeah.
I'm tending to believe that there
Yeah.
is some genetics in common there.
I tell people that, I tend to be, by and large, my friends know me as a fairly easygoing sort. Y'all excuse me, I got a cat hair up my snoot. But I've got a temper, and it's not one that you really want to fire up. And I tell people, look at it like this, okay? I got redheaded Irish, Welsh, Scots, English, Italian, French, and Cherokee that we know for sure. Now, the only moderating factor on the temper there is the English. And, if you piss them off enough, they tear down soccer stadia. So,
in a heartbeat.
Yeah. So,
I have seen that temper actually, not directed at me, but
yeah.
I have and I have witnessed the wilting of the object of the offense. And
What did I do? What happened?
um,
Or should I ask on the air?
you were in pain at the time, and somebody was inconsiderate, and you were not taking any shit,
Okay.
and
That's fair.
they deserved it, and they learned not to ever piss you off again. As did several onlookers who had nothing to do with it, but it was their fault. They made it public. You did not want it that way, but you know, uh, if the shoe fits, you're gonna kick somebody with it.
Well, the answer to that is, if I'm hurting and it's obvious that I'm hurting, don't go in and shoot off your mouth,
Yeah, yeah.
because
Uh,
that's when my patience is about this big.
well, like I said, it was deserved, and they learned, and I can't even remember who it was now. I don't think it was anybody we know well. I think it was just somebody random, but they were being an idiot. And believe me, if they directed it at me, I would have went off on them. And I've got a black belt in industrial language, so I can go off. But
Dan, I was going to try to hold up my phone on the screen. I was pulling up the Dawes rolls
yeah,
with our family in it, and I knew there was, because of the glare and everything, I couldn't do it. So I took a screenshot and put it in the stupid o'clock message
I-
link.
I will do my best, Bill, but I'm not really. I'm not up to other people's quality of being able to do a share here.
It is in
Uh,
landscape mode,
I
so
might be
hopefully
able
you
to.
might be able to see it. I
You want
don't
me to
know.
try? You want me to try, Dan?
Let me see if I can make it work.
Okay.
I
Let me.
just being on the tablet, I don't think I could pull it up from when I tried to do that with another picture a couple weeks ago, my tablet wasn't cooperating.
I saw you trying to hold something up to the screen.
Yeah, and I knew it was not going to end up being well. Actually, is that? Yeah, I guess that's
That's
legible.
it. That's
And
it.
Gilbert was the son. I said John William, and it's William R. But I couldn't think of Gilbert's name, and that they were the ones ending up in Oklahoma, and part of that. But and there's of course a bunch of others, but that's just the first ones that pulled up, and I'm named after him.
The
Excuse me. I'm going to have to remove myself. I've got to sneeze.
Oh, hit that sneeze button.
yeah. We haven't been able to find our ancestor in any of the rolls because, according to one side of the family, she's European. According to another side of the family, no, she's Cherokee, and she was born. Her parents were on the Trail of Tears, and her mother was pregnant, and they stopped off in the area, the general area where I was raised, and had the baby, and gave it to a white couple to raise. What then happened to her parents, I would have no idea, but she was raised as a white woman. But if you look at the photos of her, she doesn't look like a white woman. So,
and I was one of those blonde hair. I did not have blue eyes. Well, believe it or not, I used to have hazel eyes, and now since my eyes have turned green, I don't know why.
my sister, when she was younger, she had blue eyes like me. And then when she hit her late teens, her eyes changed to the most vivid green you've ever seen. And I've never heard of anybody else doing that.
You would never be able to see it on here, but my eyes are green and I have a little blue ring around the outside of it. And I had the blondest hair. Yes, I was born a blonde, and I was the only blonde in the whole family. My grandfather always used to tease my mom and said, I'm going to take black shoe polish and color his hair so he looks like the rest of the family. And which, of course, would get mom all worked up, but she knew grandfather was only kidding. When we came here, it was found out where we came from, and there was some teasing. And I never mentioned anything for a long time afterwards. Nobody in high school knew. You know, some family members and would tell some friends and stuff, but it was just, I went through a bad time, and I was, if I wasn't shy before already and pretty much an introvert, that really did a number on you. And so happens to everybody. And
Bill,
so
introverted? I can't believe that.
There was a time.
Life and soul, you are.
Well, it's like Ryan going on for first half hour about me. God love him for all the promoting that he does of everybody.
You know,
And
that brings to mind, you and Ryan should never have a show together because neither one of you'd be able to get a word in edgewise.
he was the first show that I was ever interviewed on was his show, the And I Quote show.
Mm.
And
And he's a damn good interviewer too.
he is. He's wonderful,
He's really
and we
good.
developed a really good relationship, and I believe a good friendship as well. You know, both professionally and personally, and Dave Adams, his boy wonder on the Geek at Birth show that they do, which is a wonderful show. And they entrusted me to draw baby versions of them, but with adult heads. And they gave me free reign to draw them as I saw fit. So
why do I get
Ryan,
visions of the mighty heroes? And
well, that's kind of what Dave looked like. I forget which mighty hero, the one that had the bottle.
Diaper Man.
Diaper Man. Thank you. Yeah,
I lived through the era. I know this stuff. You know?
I made Dave kind of look like Diaper Man a little bit. Ryan, I put him in a onesie. And with several DC and Marvel-like logos, but not exactly, because they were actually going to use this as their cover photo for the Facebook page, and then they ended up using the photo at the beginning of their show as well. But yeah, they're wonderful people. But you know, Ryan, to this day, when he kind of talks about my artwork and stuff, or even you, Dan, or anybody, and that I do have, that's where the introvert part in me comes out. And so if I start goofing or joking and that, or being a dork, is what Laura affectionately calls me, it's, some of it is a little bit of nervousness.
Yeah, well, all of us are shy in one way or another. I mean, you wouldn't know it to listen to me talk now because I'm on camera, so I'm on. But, and I know Stephanie has gone through periods of not wanting to put herself forward. And then when she actually got recognition for the damn fine writer she is, kind of stepped forward and learned to emote and promote instead of being a wallflower like I was doing most of my life when I was growing up. But it's one of those things where I would call it protective coloration. Actually, it's sort of like being a chameleon, but not in a nice way. You kind of try and avoid being the center of attention, or at least for me. And then all of a sudden, hey, I'm the center of attention, so let's milk this for all it's worth. It's one of those things that I had. It's a defense mechanism that I had to learn to actually say something instead of just being totally silent all the time.
I kind of look upon it as.
I think Chris just nailed it in the chat.
Creative camouflage.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
And it's kind of like a secret identity, so that people don't really find out who you truly are. So you put the back.
Sorry.
Yeah. I'm putting my cowl on, and that, and no, it's not pink, like in that one episode. But
it's purple, actually.
Yeah, well, over here at Oakwood, that would ring true because that's their high school color. But anyway, No, it just I just feel like, okay, you got to be the other person
Hmm.
when the on the air light technically flashes, and then
I've found that working in the factory has allowed me to, I wouldn't say come out of my shell so much as just reveal the inner snark within.
I
I mean,
love my shell. I'll never come out.
I've,
When I was younger, I really had a lot of stage fright, and I
mm,
didn't do well with public speaking. And Daryl I think he kind of came up with the solution for that for me. And he said, basically, he says, you act, create a character that is you being comfortable with public speaking.
hmm
And then when you have to speak in public, drop into that character.
and it's not like you are being false in any way. It
No.
is you, but it is you pretending to be comfortable.
Well, where it gets really weird is that I did it enough because I taught at space camp and I spoke at
Mhm.
conventions
Oh
and all this
yes.
kind of stuff. And I have done for literal decades. And somewhere along the way, I incorporated that character into my personality. So
Hmm.
now it's just a different facet of me. But yes, there is still a switch. It's like, okay, I'm on now. All right, hey guys, how you doing?
Hmm.
And then I go back to the room, like decompress. You know.
Really. Now I need a mixed drink that is stout. Believe me. Oh Lord.
It's
Um.
always that fine line that you walk because I don't know about either of you, but I always worry about either talking too much or not talking enough. Now, there's some subjects that you people get into that don't get me wrong, I'm totally fascinated by, but I don't know jack squat about. So I'm sitting there quietly
Yeah.
listening, and that's fine.
Thank
But
you.
I think if I do that too much, then it's like, why do they want somebody on the show if he doesn't say anything all night long? So,
Well, yeah. It would be like putting you on a panel with me and Stephanie, and the topic is writing or editing something that we
Mhm.
both know a fair deal about, and then
Well,
you're sitting there. You're an artist, and writing and editing doesn't come in your wheelhouse, and you're going, what can I
yeah,
contribute to this?
and
and when y'all get off on the music and stuff, I'll sit here and listen. I don't, I love music, but I don't have the encyclopedic knowledge that you guys have got. And I'll be
Mm,
happy to sit here and listen, but there's nothing I can contribute to the conversation. So I get what you're saying. It's like sometimes it's just it's you're there and you're happy to participate when you're needed, and you don't butt in when somebody is on a roll about something.
mhm.
yeah. Last night I watched a YouTube video, a reaction video. Somebody had just discovered a band that I'm really, really fond of, but they prompted me when once their video was done, I had to go and search out various one-hit wonders from the last 30 years,
Hmm.
and I'm going, oh, yeah, I should share these, and I go, no, no, I really shouldn't share more than one or two, because I will get things started that may not end at all. Not well, not badly, but at all. And
Dan,
I
throw up Chris's latest
oh
while you're
oh
talking.
Lord, yes, yeah. When Chris and I get started talking about music, it's like the rest of the world can take a back seat
Mhm.
because we're on, we're
Well,
live.
I think all of us can. All four of us,
Yeah.
can
Well,
do that. about
And
different subjects.
yeah, it's exactly the point I was going to make. There are different things that we're comfortable um, shooting the breeze about and reminiscing and exploring. Like, have you ever heard this, or have you ever read that, or oh, this is wonderful. Have do you know about this? But it's one of those things where uh, with different people, it can go in different directions, and that's one of the really neat things about going to a convention. You wind up in this stupid o'clock discussion about stuff you never thought you'd get involved with or open your mouth over, and you find out you're really passionate about this, that, or the other thing, and somebody else understands what you're saying and can respond in kind, and
Mhm.
you could lose hours, if not days.
It was funny Monday when we
Oh
were
yeah,
going.
Ace. Exactly. Yes. Ace.
What did he
Ace is
say?
another one of those.
Oh yeah,
We can talk about music for hours.
we were
Um,
going up to Chicago Monday, and Laura's dad was sitting in the backseat, kind of snoozing because he doesn't sleep very well at night. So we're just kind of yakking with each other on this 4-hour trip up there, and the radio's on in the background a little bit, and I hear a little bit of "Come and Get It" by Badfinger on there.
mhm,
And I said, "Oh, I used to have that single, Come and Get It." She goes, What's that?" And she'll know some songs, but she doesn't, she'll recollect something that she may not know the title of the song, or maybe not
mhm.
the artist on every one. And I said, "Yeah, Come and Get It by Badfinger." I said, I had it on the Apple label. And, I said, Paul McCartney wrote it. And I said, originally he sang it, but then it got ended up being a hit for Pete
Uh,
Ham and
Yeah.
Badfinger.
Yeah.
And it came from the Magic Christian that starred Peter Sellers and Ringo
Mhm.
Starr, and
Ringo. Yeah. Yeah.
she
And that
just
was
looks at
that's a
me.
really intense movie. I
She
mean,
Oh yeah,
it's
yeah.
fun, but if you're not expecting it, it turns out to be a really intense sort of thing. And and
Well,
here we
as
go
most of
again.
Ringo's movies. I
Here we
mean,
go again. There's all this stuff that would somebody says something that would draws up
mhm.
a memory in somebody else, and here you go, and here you go, and here you go. Um, I didn't realize that I knew so many Beatles songs because until I actually started buying the albums when I was in
Mhm.
college. But my mother would sing along with the radio while she was doing dishes or in housework, or we were out in the field on the farm doing otherwise brainless tasks that you pretty much need to
Mhm.
be able to um, detach from and do something else at the same time. But mom would be singing along with all these songs, and I never knew they were Beatles songs. And then once I started buying Beatles albums, I realized my mom had one hell of a repertoire of being able to sing along with John, Paul, George, and Ringo. Let me tell you, it's ah,
I say things like that about different songs or groups or whatever, or even just not even about music, about something else.
oh,
It's stupid information that's locked up into my head on this reel to reel tape in my brain. And Laura will look at me like I'm some idiot savant or something, and she'll, "How do you know that?" And and then she says, "You have such good memory." I never in my life ever thought, and I still
mm-mm,
don't think I have that great of memory. My brother, on the other hand, did, and I was always in awe of my brother's memory from, well, Val was 8 or 9 years old and could tell my dad uh, how many pounds to inflate the tires on our 72 Bonneville station wagon what size windshield wiper blades that it
Mhm.
required, and different little oddball facts,
Yeah, stuff that just sticks in your mind. Now I've got to put this. Chris said something that is highly complimentary to one of our favorite people, and yeah, that's exactly true,
Mhm.
and
Well,
that
I try
is
hard. I try hard.
you succeed, and that is one of the things that really, when you're doing a panel at a con, and you've got access to the specifics of things that a lot of people might not understand all of the nuances of it, but you're able to present it in such a way that they can go, "Oh shit, that's neat," and you do it so well. You do it so well, and you have had years of practice doing that sort of thing, and you're when you slip into lecture mode, if I may term it that, it you have a connection with the people that don't have the kind of education that you have pursued and obtained, but you can say it in such a way that even people that don't have a grasp for the finer points of this, that, and the other thing, you can give it to them in a way that they can easily comprehend. And it's that easily part that makes it so good. Uh, I mean, you can talk to me about physics, and I'm an idiot, so I almost understand one word in 12, but that's like listening to to Lindsay's boy when he's talking about computer programming. I'm going, I almost understood that.
Well,
uh,
that's the way my brain works. I mean,
yeah, you're
that's the sort of thing that I'm good at. So
you're able to popularize
yeah,
and translate into non-technical terms in a way that people that don't have the advanced education are able to understand the technical aspects in a way they can relate to, and that's marvelous. That is one of the that's a teacher quality in the
well,
best way.
I do have a certain amount of teaching ability. I don't think of myself as a teacher as such. Um, I think of myself as a science popularizer in
Hmm.
in in that kind of way.
Yeah.
But um, I do remember at one point I was sitting in the bookstore coffee shop for a while there. I tutored in my off time, and I remember sitting in the bookstore coffee shop with one of my students, and I think it was mathematics, high school mathematics. I can't remember exactly what. Um, but I was working with him, and if he didn't understand it, I tried different approaches, and then I found out the boy was on one of the athletic teams, and he
Hmm.
had just come from practice, and he hadn't eaten.
Ah.
And I bought that boy something to eat at the coffee shop, so just to bring his blood sugar up. And so then we sat down and tried again. And once he had some food in him, he did a whole lot better.
Hmm.
And so when he finished the session and he left, and I was sitting there kind of putting things in order and getting ready for my next student, a lady came over to me and she said, "I hope you don't mind my interrupting. I'm a retired school teacher, and I just wanted to tell you you are a natural born teacher. I watched what you did with that child, and
Mhm.
you showed you cared. You made sure he left understanding the material regardless of what it took. And yeah, that's kind of how I am, but I don't think, again, I don't think of myself as a teacher. um I think science is cool.
Yeah.
I want other people to understand why I think science is cool. That's it in a nutshell.
And once they understand why you think science is cool, they start understanding the science.
Yeah. So,
It's all in the enthusiasm and the ability to explain things that are normally opaque, but when you have a way of putting things into words that renders them more transparent than opaque, hey, that's a gift. That's a gift right there. And you got that. You got that. And that's why your panels on the New Madrid, the New American Space Plan, things like that, that's why they work so much because you're able to put things in such a way that people get the point. They get not only the point but the details, and they become interested, and they may go off and research this on their own and find more resources that uh, help them understand things that they might not have gotten at first glance. But then, I mean, hell, um, you're good at what you do.
thank you.
You're really good at what you do.
I try really hard. I try.
Well,
And
the problem
one
the problem is you do so damn much.
I try one of the big things that I try hard never to do, either as a tutor
Hmm.
or in my talks, is I try never to talk down to people.
Hmm.
I got annoyed by people talking down to me when I was a kid. It's like, okay, look, just because I'm this age does not mean I have no clue what you're talking about. Just because I'm not specialized in your particular field, which is a scientific field, does not mean that I can't catch on awfully doggone quick. And so I get annoyed at people for doing that to me.
Hmm.
I flatly refuse to do it to others if I can avoid it. I may do it without meaning to, but it is not meaning to, and I try very hard to catch
Well,
it.
if even if you're doing it without meaning to, it's not going to be for but a very brief period until you can find the common ground.
Exactly. If I do, it's because I'm looking for that common ground. I'm trying
Hmm.
different things.
Oh
And
yeah.
thank you, Chris. You have been complimentary throughout, and I appreciate that.
Oh
I
yeah. Well,
I do
and
try
and
hard.
the nice thing is he's right, and you you have a gift for
Well,
explaining complex subjects in a way that can be easily understood. Well, maybe not easily, but can be understood by people who had never considered the subject before.
Well, that's
So,
just it, Dan, because I mean, even though I've never listened to or watched one of Stephanie's lectures, never had the privilege of it, but just stuff that she's explained on here when we were talking about New Madrid fault or what,
mhm.
ever SpaceX doing at the time or anything. It The way she talked about it was not dumbing down, but it was a way of just more of a smoother layman's terms that would actually grab your interest enough to pull you in on it.
It's more translating than talking
Mm.
down to.
Yes, 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 yes,
Mhm.
yes. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to translate from all of this, techno babble gobbledygook to something that sounds like normal speak.
Hmm. And you do it so well. Um, oh, okay. It's 3 minutes to the end of the show.
Oh, yes.
I'm sorry. I do have to go to work tomorrow. Um, it's just one of those things. Hopefully, we can have, you know, however long we want Saturday night, as long as I don't get in trouble with Lindsay for not being able to do what she wants on Sunday morning. But, here we go. Um, folks, this has been one of the more exemplary examples of what Last Man Standing and Stupid O'Clock is all about, is people coming together and having conversations and engaging folks. Sometimes despite their wishes, but we hope you had a good time. And
Because we did.
yeah, we've
Yeah.
had a blast. We've had a blast, and
And
this
I'll
is
finish my thing by saying that where I usually say via con Dios at the end, which is go with God. Since we've been talking about Native American stuff and that, I'll just say Osta Otho B, which is good night. And thank you, Dan and Stephanie, for
thank you for
everything you
being
do.
here, Bill. Thank you
Yep.
for being here, Stephanie. And thank you, Kiri. Thank you, Chris. And everybody else that joined in. Even if
Ace.
it was just
Ace.
comment. Ace, yes, indeed. Must not ever forget Ace. And we will see you hopefully Saturday night. Same bat time. No, different bat time. Different same bat channel, but we'll still be batty.
Okay.
And it's
Yep.
time. It's time to play the bedtime story. So we will. We will kick this one in the butt and go on and reconvene some other time. But thank everybody for being here. Thank y'all for being here, and hope everybody had fun.
Transmission overload.
System will shut down. shut down. System will shut down. System will shut down.